You might think it's your wrinkles, your gray hair, or the age difference that makes her uncomfortable. But what if I told you that none of that really matters? What if I told you that what truly makes a man seem creepy to a woman has nothing to do with how old he is and everything to do with what's happening inside his mind? Before you roll your eyes and say, yeah, right. She just wants younger guys. Stop for a second and listen, because what I'm about to tell you might change how you see yourself forever. This isn't about dating tricks or fake confidence. This is about the psychology of presence, the very thing Stoic philosophers mastered centuries ago, long before Tinder, before Instagram filters, before anyone cared about age at all. Let me start with a story. There was an old Roman philosopher named He was once a slave, crippled and poor. But when people spoke to him, they felt something powerful, calm, control, presence. Not once did anyone describe him as creepy. Why? Because he mastered one thing, his emotional energy. Now, imagine the opposite. An older man sitting across from a young woman, trying too hard to be liked, over-explaining his life, complimenting her every minute, constantly checking if she's impressed. He might not realize it, but his entire presence screams neediness. That's the first silent killer of attraction. Here's the truth. Women will never say out loud, it's not your age that makes you seem creepy. It's your need for approval that does when you enter a space, whether it is a cafe, a date, or even a conversation. Women subconsciously sense one thing first. Are you grounded in yourself or not? Are you okay with who you are? Or are you seeking something from them to feel complete? A younger man with no money and no success can appear confident simply because he doesn't beg for validation. Meanwhile, an older man with success, wisdom, and experience can destroy his entire aura by constantly seeking approval with his words, tone, or body language. The Stoics had a word for this, ataraxia. Inner peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." What does this mean in our world today? It means that your energy, not your age, determines how people feel around you. When you're calm, collected, and comfortable with silence, you project power. But when you fill every silence with nervous talk, laughter, or forced charm, you project insecurity. And insecurity at an older age doesn't read as cute, it reads as off. Let's dig deeper to imagine. Two men of the same age, both in their 50s. The first man meets a woman and immediately starts talking about himself, how successful he used to be, how young he feels, how much he still has it. He thinks he's impressing her. But what she feels is tension, the kind that makes her slightly pull back in her seat. The second man barely speaks. He listens. He observes. He's grounded in the moment. His calmness creates space. She feels safe. She feels intrigued. One seems desperate. The other seems desirable. The difference, one seeks control of perception. The other controls himself. That's Stoicism in action. Here's the shocking part. Most older men who seem creepy aren't bad people. They're just anxious. They've lived long enough to carry rejection, regret, and shame. And all that emotional weight leaks through their words. Their voice carries a subtle tremor of "please like me," and women being extremely intuitive, sense that instantly they can feel when you don't trust yourself. But here's where it gets interesting and hopeful. You can change that. Not by pretending to be younger or smoother, but by doing what the Stoics called turning inward. When Marcus Aurelius felt judged or misunderstood, he didn't chase validation. He reflected. He reminded himself that opinions are not within his control. He focused instead on his virtue, his reason, his calm. That's what you must do to. The next time you're with a woman, any woman, pause before speaking. Ask yourself, am I saying this because I truly want to share something or because I want her to approve of me? If it's the second reason, stop, breathe, sit back. Let silence do the talking. This single act, controlling your need for validation, will instantly change how women feel around you, because silence, when it comes from inner peace, is magnetic. Let me tell you something. Few men understand. Women don't feel attraction from what you say. They feel it from what you radiate. If your energy says, I need you to like me, she recoil. If your energy says, I'm fine either way, she'll relax. That's the paradox. The less you try, the more powerful you become. But let's not romanticize this too much, because there's another hidden layer. Some men try to fake this calmness. They read advice like this and start acting cool, but women can smell fake stoicism too. True calmness isn't performed, it's earned. It comes from genuine detachment from accepting whatever happens, good or bad, without losing your center. That's the heart of Stoicism. You don't control others. You control your reactions. When an older man internalizes this, everything about him changes: his posture, his tone, his eyes. He no longer stares with hunger. He observes with peace. He no longer flirts out of fear. He speaks out of presence. He no longer he leads. Now, let's explore something most men never think about. The second reason women find older men creepy. It's not because of what they do, but when they do it. C. When a man lacks emotional timing, he creates dissonance. For example, he compliments her too early, laughs too loud, or stands too close, not because he's evil, but because he's nervous. But from her perspective, that nervousness feels like pressure. She feels trapped instead of relaxed. In Stoic language, this happens because he is serosto purohearesis, the control of choice. He reacts impulsively to emotion rather than choosing his response. Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. If she delays her reply, you panic. If she seems distant, you overcompensate. If she smiles politely, you assume she's interested and push too far. All these microreactions build a vibe that feels unstable. That's what women subconsciously label as creepy. It's not that they hate you, they just sense emotional inconsistency. So, what's the fix? Simple, but not easy. Pause between impulse and action. When she doesn't respond right away, pause. When you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. When you feel her pulling away, don't chase, breathe. Every time you pause, you weaken the hold of your emotional reflex. And that pause, that 1 second of composure, communicates something primal, control. Women aren't attracted to perfection. They're drawn to control, the calm control of a man who isn't ruled by his emotions. That's what separates wise from weird. Now, let's go deeper into the psychology of presence. Presence is more than just being physically there, it's emotional alignment, your mind, body, and words all telling the same story. When they don't, you feel off. For instance, when an older man says, "I'm not trying to impress you," but his body language shows tension, his words lose credibility. The human brain reads nonverbal cues 10 times faster than spoken language. Women, especially, are biologically wired to detect inconsistency. It's a safety mechanism. So when you're incongruent, your body says one thing, your eyes another. She feels unsafe. Not threatened, but uneasy. That unease is what translates to creepy. The Stoics practiced congruence by aligning their actions with their values. If they said, "I'm calm," they became calm through breath, thought, and discipline. You can do the same. Before meeting anyone, take 3 slow breaths. Remind yourself, I control my tone. I control my focus. This simple ritual resets your nervous system and restores alignment. Let's visualize it. You're walking into a cafe to meet someone. You're older, maybe experienced, but slightly self-conscious. You notice younger men laughing nearby. A younger version of you would have tried to overcompensate, louder voice, forced humor, extra charm, but the stoic version of you just breathes. You take your seat, she arrives. You smile naturally, not too much, not too little. You don't lean in too fast. You don't rush to fill silence. You let the moment breathe. You talk not to prove, but to share. You listen, not to reply, but to understand. And suddenly the air changes. She relaxes, her eyes soften. She leans in not because you chase, but because she felt something rare, peaceful strength. That's the magic of Stoicism in real life. But let's be brutally honest. Most men won't reach this state easily because the world constantly teaches you the opposite. It says, be louder, funnier, richer, smoother. And when you try all that, you end up performing instead of being. But Stoicism isn't performance, it's presence. There's a quote I love from Seneca. Calmness is nothing else but the mind settled in itself. When your mind is settled, your energy radiates maturity, not creepiness. Now, let's talk about how this maturity translates to attraction. Women are not seeking perfection, they're seeking emotional safety. They want to feel seen, not scanned. They want to feel your awareness, not your anxiety. When you look at her with grounded eyes, when your body language is open yet composed, you send an unspoken message. I see you, but I don't need to own you. That's the difference between admiration and obsession. Admiration makes her comfortable. Obsession makes her retreat. And that's where most older men fall. They cross from admiration to obsession without realizing it. Now, let's dive deeper because understanding why certain behaviors make older men seem creepy isn't just about avoiding embarrassment. It's about reclaiming your masculine energy in a way that commands respect instead of discomfort. You see, a stoic man doesn't chase validate. He radiates calm confidence, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything. And that's exactly where most men lose their power. When a man starts acting in ways that signal neediness, women sense it instantly. It's not always what he says, it's how he exists in the space around her. His tone, his body, language, even the energy he brings. Let's break down something subtle but powerful: the energy of control, the energy of desperation. Women are extremely sensitive to the vibe a man gives off. If your vibe says, I want you to like me, you've already lost. But if your vibe says, I am centered, calm, and content with or without your attention, she feels a different kind of pull. And here's where Stoicism comes in. The Stoic man understands that attraction isn't something you chase. It's something you allow by being grounded in your values, purpose, and emotional discipline. Women can feel when a man is trying too hard, and that's often the first red flag. When an older man tries to appear young again through exaggerated flirting, over-the-top compliments, or dressing in a way that screams, please notice me, it signals insecurity. And insecurity at that age doesn't look cute. It looks unsettling. The truth is, women don't see age as unattractive. They see desperation as unattractive. Let's be honest. Some men reach a point in their 40s or 50s where they panic. They notice younger women getting attention. They feel invisible, and they try to prove they've still got it. But that energy, that need to prove something, is exactly what creates that creepy aura. Stoicism teaches us to detach from things we cannot control: youth, external validation, other people's opinions. What remains is your internal fortress, your composure, your focus, your purpose. A man rooted in that will never appear creepy. He'll appear mysterious. Here's the paradox. When you stop seeking to be noticed, people notice you. When you stop trying to impress, people get impressed. When you stop chasing attraction, attraction chases you. Now, let's talk about another major thing that makes older men seem creepy: crossing emotional boundaries too fast. Some men mistake friendliness for an invitation. A woman smiles politely, and they take it as interest. A small compliment turns into an attempt at intimacy. This happens because the man isn't reading the room. He's reading his fantasy. A Stoic man doesn't interpret everything emotionally. He pauses. He observes. He acts with awareness, not impulse. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You can control your reactions, your tone, your pace. But the moment you project your desire onto someone who hasn't shown the same energy, you step into the territory of discomfort. And here's something most men never realize. What women truly admire in older men is emotional restraint. A man who doesn't rush, a man who speaks slowly with intention, a man who listens more than he talks, a man who leaves space, emotional space that makes her feel safe, not cornered. When you become that man, you no longer try to get women's attention. You attract it naturally. Now, let's talk about the third thing that instantly makes older men seem creepy: lingering attention. It's not always about what you say. Sometimes it's about how long you stay, that extra second of eye, contact that crosses from confident into invasive, that unnecessary comment about her looks that feels more personal than respectful. That repeated text after being left unseen every time you don't let go, use signal attachment, and attachment without connection looks needy. Stoicism is about mastery, mastery over desire, over impulse, over need. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." When you free yourself from the need to be liked, you become attractive in a way that no gym membership or luxury car can replicate. You want to know what women actually find magnetic in older men? It's the quiet presence of someone who's been through life and learned, who's not performing anymore, who doesn't care about looking cool, but about being calm. That calmness, that internal stability makes her feel something she doesn't often feel in modern men. Security, you stop being creepy when you stop wanting, because wanting energy creates imbalance. It puts her on a pedestal and yourself beneath it. But when you become indifferent to outcomes, your presence becomes equal, grounded, and magnetic now. Imagine this. You walk into a room, you say very little, you observe, you smile, not because you want attention, but because you own your moment. That's when people start noticing you differently. Older men who appear creepy are often the ones trying to get something. Older men who appear charismatic are the ones who give something: peace, presence, wisdom, calm. And women can feel that instantly. The truth is, you don't have to act younger to be attractive. You just have to stop resisting your age. You've lived, you've learned, you've failed and gotten back up. That's your charm. That's your edge. So, instead of chasing youth, embody grace. Instead of chasing attention, embody peace. Instead of chasing women, embody purpose. When you embody those, your energy transforms. Because what women really want, whether they admit it or not, is a man who can make them feel safe in his silence. That's the essence of Stoicism in relationships. You don't react, you respond. You don't chase, you attract. You don't speak to impress, you speak to express. And when you live by those principles, you move differently, you look at her differently, you talk differently, you breathe differently, you become that man who no longer fits the label creepy. You become the man who radiates quiet power, the kind that's rare in today's world. Remember this? Every time you feel the urge to prove yourself, pause. Every time you want to say something just to fill the silence, hold your ground. Every time you feel unseen, remind yourself, I am enough. Because the moment you know that the world sees it too. Now, here's your challenge, the Stoic challenge for the next week. Practice observation without reaction. When you see a woman you're drawn to, don't act, don't speak, just observe and let the moment pass. Feel your own energy, stay contained, how you rewire your mind from seeking validation to being validation. That's how you stop being the creepy older guy and become the quietly powerful man. Because in the end, attraction isn't about trying harder. It's about needing less. And needing less is the most magnetic thing a man can ever learn.